Well, hello everybody on YouTube. I'm assuming that's what I'm on. What I can't figure out is how you make these videos and are able to share it and get thousands of views. I've done a lot of videos, everything from cleaning fish to giving my opinion and things about cars, anything, and I don't get any views, so I'm not really sure um, what I'm doing wrong. But anyway, a couple of things I wanted to discuss. Well, that's weird. That's my right hand. That's my left hand. Okay. Anyway, um, I watch a lot of videos on YouTube, and some of them I react to, some of them I troll real bad. A lot of people that say stupid shit. I just jump right on that. And I've seen a couple of people on here that they say some pretty funny stuff, and they make sense, and I usually will put a comment in their section, but I can't figure out how I can go live. So um, the reason I'm making this video is with everything that's going on in the world today, I just have a few questions, and I really want to understand how people think the way they do. Um, I don't watch the news that often. I'm more into movies or comedies or things that make me laugh. And I don't believe in the news media. I think they're propaganda machines for the rich, regardless if they're red or blue or whatever. They're given a script and they read the script, and their job is to sell it to the people to take sides. So that's one of my heartburns that I wish people would understand that 90% of the stuff that you see in the media and social media is BS. And with AI coming into the mix, it's even harder to know what's the truth and what's not the truth, because you don't know if it's an AI video, you don't know if it's real. So what I try to stick to is I want to hear what the people in power say. Like Trump, Pelosi, whoever, when they're talking live, giving their feelings, giving their things. And I'm just at an impasse on how so many things can be so divided when 10 years ago they were one way, and then 10 years later, when we're doing what the people talked about 10 years ago, now it's wrong. um, So we got everything going on, and recently with Venezuela, we used the drug cartels as the reason for what we're doing to stop fentanyl and drugs coming into this little hair over here is driving me nuts, into our country, and use that as an excuse to do what we did in Venezuela. My only issue with that is, maybe that guy's a bad man. I don't know. I don't watch politics. I try not to pay attention. I could give two shits about Venezuela. But what I do know about Venezuela is they're like number three in the world when it comes to oil reserves. They provide, like, I think 18% of the world with oil. Um, and they're targeted for drug trafficking. All right, I get that. I have no problem with um, the military bombing these boats trying to drive drugs into the United States. The only problem I have with that is Mexico has been doing this for ever. What in the fuck is this thing sticking out of my head? Anyway, sorry. Mexico's been doing this forever. And never once did we ever attempt to oust the president of Mexico or do anything in Mexico when it comes to, bombing the cartels and this like that. They can tell you everything they want to tell you, but Mexico doesn't have what Venezuela has. So, and look, I am a supporter of Trump. I don't like him as a person, but I do like his policies when it comes to protecting the borders. And I have no problem with immigrants coming to this country. Every person in this country is an immigrant. We came from somewhere. I have no problem with that as long as you do it legally. And as long as the administration is going after the prisoners that all these other Central America countries are releasing, even the Caribbean countries are releasing their prisoners to relieve their stress on economy by having to take care of them. They release them and they work their way into the United States. And now we are, as taxpayers, hindered with the fact that we have to pay for our military, our police, our sheriffs, our governments, everything to deal with the immigration crisis. And like I said, I have no problem with anybody coming into the United States for a better life. But here's my issue. And I live in a state that we don't tolerate a whole lot of shit. Okay. But when I see the immigration coming into our state, the people that are looking for a better life, so they say, I don't understand why they live in areas that represent the way it looked they were back home. In other words, they live in housing, and a lot of them live in trailer parks, all right, and government subsidized housing and this and that. And they turn those neighborhoods into what they ran from. And I'm telling you, I grew up in where I live, and I never saw roosters and chickens and chihuahuas and shit running all over the place. Garbage and trash everywhere. Trailers 2 feet apart with 19 cars parked around them. And it looks like what I would imagine Mexico or any Central America country look like. Now, I do want to explain to you that I did serve in our military, and I spent 4 years in the Philippines. And I saw how these people live. They had dirt flooring, tin roofs, grass huts. They had nothing. They had nothing. And were the sweetest, most kindest people I've ever met in my life. You know, I never got ripped off by them. I never got robbed by them. I never got taken advantage by them, ever. But if you're going to move to the United States for a better life, why would you want to move here and turn this country into an area where you live that looks just like what you ran from? That's the part I can't understand. I really can't understand that. And the Mexicans and the Latinos, I don't care where they came from, they live that way. Now, I've lived in this town since 1975. So you count the years. That's 50 years I've lived in this county. And we've had bad neighborhoods and this and that. But now I'm just freaking out because I drive through areas now that I'm like, I didn't even know these places existed, that with 10 people live into a trailer. And like I said, with ducks and roosters and chickens and chihuahuas and all this shit running around. Like we turned these little areas into a mini Mexico, a mini Central America. And a lot of these things are happening in other states across the country. And, you know, you got Minnesota dealing with the Somalia issue, where tens of billions of dollars is being directed towards childcare and healthcare that there's not even going to that, you know. And you have states like Colorado and Oregon and Washington and California, you know, bending over backwards to give these people free living benefits and everything that the average natural born American can't get. Now, we have to fork out tax money to pay for all of this. And this is the shit that boggles me. And I say this because I want people to understand something. We talk about white privilege, and I'm going to show you exactly how white privilege works. Okay. The most Americans, okay, whether lower middle class, upper middle class, going into the thing where white people live, we are forced to pay higher home insurance policies, higher property taxes. Maybe your mortgage rate may be good. Mine is pretty good. Mine's at 2.49. That's great. But my property taxes and my homeowner's insurance skyrocketing through the roof. Right? Now, I don't live in an HOA area, but if you live in an HOA area, and HOA areas are designed to keep the riffraff out. It doesn't matter who you are or what color skin you are. And they're run by Napoleon dictators that are given power to fine you for any little thing under the sun, and then put a lien on your home and have the ability to put your home into foreclosure. And a lot of this down here in Florida is elderly people. And it's not just happening here. I have a relative that lives out in Arizona that is dealing with this constantly. And she's currently in debt about $17,000 because she had a car, a Mercedes Benz, that was old, and the paint was tinted and this and that, whatever. It didn't run, but she was fined. Nobody ever knocked on her door. Nobody ever contacted her. Nobody ever made contact to even see if she was alive. But put her house into foreclosure, put a lien on her home and her house into foreclosure. And that's happening in Florida. That's happening anywhere you have HOAs. Okay. So people need to understand that HOAs are in cahoots with realtors. In other words, HOA presidents and all these people on the HOA committees have family members, or they are a part of a real estate or realtor company looking to buy homes cheap. So the only way that they can do this is to find especially elderly people and put them into a position where they're so scared they don't know what to do. They're getting phone calls every day. Look, your taxes are behind. Your home is going to be foreclosed. You need to sell now. I'm living through this. I am living through this right now with my mother-in-law who lives in another state. And it's happening everywhere. HOAs are a criminal organization. They have connection, and everything is about property and money. And you people need to stand up. And I've contacted our Congressman Greg Steube on this and said, why are you sitting back allowing this to happen? Not only that, why are you allowing insurance companies to continue to increase our rates or stop selling insurance in the state of Florida? Because they're not making money. Everything, when you look at it, is down to the almighty dollar. And that's got nothing to do to say that capitalism is bad. I'm just saying it's people that are abusing the system for power and money. And if you don't start looking at your local leaders, your local representatives, everything from your city commissioners to your mayor, to your sheriff, to your police chief, anyone that is voted into office, and you don't vent them the way the media vents federal officials like Trump, Biden, whoever. That's all you hear about on the media. That's all you hear through Fox News. That's all you hear through all the other news networks is federal level. They're not the ones fucking you. The ones fucking you are the ones in the state and city you live in. And you can't see that. That's what changed me. So you have a place in Minnesota where we're pumping in billions of tax dollars, federal tax dollars. Now, that means all of us that pay taxes are paying the state of Minnesota to the governor I think their annual thing is 66 billion. And over the last 8 to 10 years since he took over, they can't figure out where 9 to 10 billion dollars of that money went. And we have daycare centers, retirement centers that aren't even in use that are getting $1.2 million, $1.8 million. And it was uncovered by a private citizen, not the local officials. Now, who are the auditors for our government or state government to go in and go, where the fuck are we spending $9 billion? Who is signing those checks? Who is giving that money away? Who is responsible for all this? There's got to be a paper trail. Nicole, please. I'm sorry, I get very excited. My girlfriend always seems to want to jump in when I'm talking. She can do her own shit. She don't need to jump in on mine. Anyway, this shit has been going on so long. So now I turn on the TV and I see that we ousted the president and his wife of Venezuela. Okay, now she's going to turn the TV on really loud while I'm talking because she does that shit just to annoy me. Anyway, now we took out the president and the president's wife of Venezuela. And if you think we did that for drugs, you are sadly mistaken. It's all about the oil reserves. Okay, the same reason we want Greenland. Greenland is a strategic position that we need as the United States to protect ourselves. Okay, so if we can go in and take out a president of another nation, somebody please explain to me why we can't take out the governor of Minnesota, AOC, that Muslim bitch in Minnesota that's bringing in from Somalia, that's bringing in all those people that are stealing all this money, all these thieves that Elon Musk discovered, that fraudulent waste in our government, and not one fucking person has been removed from office or deported to another country. Yet we can arrest, detain, and transport a president or dictator of another country to the United States. Somebody needs to explain that to me because I just don't get it. You have a person, and especially this, what's her name, in Minnesota, the Somalian bitch, that her whole purpose in life is to help Somalia. That's her whole purpose. Comes to the United States, gets a bunch of people to come into the city that she lives in. Somehow they're legally registered to vote, get driver's licenses and everything. She wins an election, and now she's dictating how shitty the United States is and how great Somalia is. Somebody needs to tell me who on here wants to move to Somalia to live, right? So we can remove a dictator from Venezuela, but we can't remove these thieves and these crooked politicians that are making millions and millions of dollars through the stock market, and not one of them gets arrested or indicted, nothing. Why? How is that? Somebody need to explain to me how that's possible. So anyway, that's enough of that rant on that. But the other side, we need to start looking in, and President Trump needs to stop worrying about everything going on outside our land and start worrying about homeland. And yep, he's doing that with the immigration thing. Great. But what's he doing about the gangs in the inner cities, the crime rates in the inner cities? What is he doing about it? And I'm not talking about illegal immigrants. I'm talking about homegrown pieces of shit that are terrorizing our inner cities all over this country. Right? And what do? We elect a Muslim fucking mayor in New York that tells you he's a socialist, tells you his plans to turn New York into a socialist state. And we sit back and allow this to happen. Yet we just fucking took out the president of Venezuela, a socialist, by the way. So everyone needs to kind of sit back and think about, what really is happening in this country. And you fat piece of shit white lesbian women need to just shut the fuck up, because you are the most useless piece of shit on this planet. You are the reason. You and those fucking LGBTQ queer fucking fags and fat ass ghetto black women. You are the sole reason this country is going to shit. Because you're useless. You contribute nothing. And social media and the news media, I could give a fuck about Fox and WACP. I don't give a fuck who they are. They all have a script and they're paid to give their opinions. I don't want an opinion from a football player. I don't want an opinion from a celebrity. I don't want an opinion from anybody on their politics. I pay you to play sports. Okay? You want to report the news, but don't give me your opinion. I don't give a fuck about your personal opinion. Just play reality. Okay? Just report reality numbers. Don't be biased. Don't be fake and don't lie. Just report real numbers. All right? And stop giving your fucking opinions because you're fucking this country up, man. And like I said, I'll stress it again. Fox News, NBC, whoever you are, I don't give a shit. Your whole purpose, your paycheck relies on you telling you to say what they're paying you to say. Okay? Stop. Be a fucking man and go, you know what? This is bullshit. You know? This is not real. I'm being paid to say, but you can't because money, because the almighty dollar, money drives you. You don't give a fuck if you're right or wrong as long as you're getting paid. However, fuck, you say the N-word, or you got accused 42 years ago of having sex with a 17-year-old girl, oh, shit, you're out. It don't matter. But you can rip off the taxpayers every fucking day. Steal money from the taxpayers, continue to increase taxes, allow insurance companies to fuck people day in and day night. Money, 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 and all people elected, especially in the federal government, somehow get rich. How is that? How are you getting rich on your paychecks? I've worked my fucking whole life, and never did I gain fucking $5 million making $60,000 a year. How do you do it? How do you become a millionaire? Because you're bought. You're bought and paid for. And you play on the idiots that social and regular media feed bullshit to because you know they're stupid. And that's why you do it. So somebody needs to explain to me once again how we can oust the president of Venezuela. I don't give a fuck if he was good, bad, or indifferent. But yet we still have these crooked politicians in this country and they're still in office. Now, somebody explain that to me, please.